Good morning. Today I'll be talking about perception and the bigger picture. A quote that says by Stephen R. Covey are the seven habits of highly effective people. To change ourselves effectively, we first have to change our perceptions. That's basically saying that we need to see the world from a different point of view and not just have one biased, straightforward view. So my thesis is information is perceived differently depending on how it was informed. So there's two different types of ways that you can receive sources and information. There's eyewitness and then there's technical. What is the difference? So an eyewitness is a person who has seen the event firsthand and has given a personal description of it from their point of view. As a technical, a secondary source of information is created over time by someone who did not experience the event firsthand. So that's basically saying that someone, like for example, library, you go to check out books, someone else has experienced it firsthand, and you have been reading about it, so you're technically considered a technical source. Why is all this important? The method of information distributed to our society is crucial to where it affects our perspective on our world. So I'll start off with eyewitness sources and their beneficial effects. Why is it beneficial? It helps understand. It helps you understand the bigger picture. It finds out the order of events when you're an eyewitness. What happened? Who was there? What did the eyewitness see? And then it gives their perspective on the situation. And then it also gives you critical thinking skills, where there's subjective recognition despite the objective presentation. So even though you have your feelings, it still gives you a feeling of why you were there and what was the purpose of knowing all these events. And then there's human condition, where it helps add your emotion and feeling to have a deeper and your more personal connection towards the understanding of the event. And then there's reliability. This is beneficial because if you're an eyewitness, you can see it firsthand, not any misinformation, not made news that like someone else can say, and then you can choose to believe or not to believe depending on the facts. So, for example, one example of an eyewitness is an eyewitness testimony. Those are testimonies which is obtained right after an event, so the witness can recall what happened. But sometimes, during those eyewitness testimonies, you can be able to understand more and more about what happened since you're giving your perspective from your point of view. And then it constructs knowledge. It gives you observation and you can see it firsthand. So you have your own personal knowledge and you're not depending on anybody else for their views or for their bias. And then there's perspective, and like I said, there's different perspectives depending on the individual. And then there's some negative effects of eyewitness sources. So one example is the Loftus, Miller, and the Burns in 1978. The purpose was the experiment was designed to investigate how information was supplied after event influences a witness's memory for that event. So for example, basically, there were 30 students shown of a stop sign and a yield sign in a video. And after that video, they were both given. In the video, they showed only a stop sign showing a car stopping at a stop sign and then going through. But then after that, they get a paragraph reading of either if the car stopped at a stop sign or a yield sign. After that, the experiment resulted in that people were misled of the information and chose that there was a yield sign, even though in the video it showed a stop sign. In the present day, there's studies still being connected over the misinformation effect. And then there's many factors which contribute to it, which is age, memory capacity, and then also your personality, which is, for example, you can be tested as an introvert or extrovert due to the Myers-Briggs test. And then there's also false memory. There's memory biases. There's a tip of the tongue effect, which is basically saying, if you walk into an office, for example, like this, then you expect basic things such as tables, chairs, plants, windows, but then if you give that bias of your personal self, that simple everyday duties, where you don't even remember what you're even doing. Say you close the garage door when you leave the house, you don't quite remember that because it's such a habit that that's why it's committing actions without even paying attention. And then there's memory templates, which is Alba and Hasher and Brewer and Trans when they conducted an experiment about schema theory, which was confirmed during their experiment on 30 university students, because schema theory is basically saying that everything in your brain is fit into different units, and where each unit stores information and knowledge. And then there was the Kirk Bloodworth in 1984, which is what happened is Kirk Bloodworth was sent into the gas chamber because he was convicted of rape and murder of a 9-year-old. But then later on, DNA tested that he was proven guilty but he served 9 years in prison due to the testimony of 5 eyewitnesses. And this is the Innocence Project, which is that there's 73% of 239 convictions were overturned due to DNA testing, which is based on eyewitness testimony, which should be proven false. And most ideas is perception, seeing the bigger picture, the macro of the events. there's technical sources, the beneficial. There's beneficial effects, which is it's convenient if you have technical because it's easy, it's low cost, it doesn't cost any money. Say you spend $100 on an experiment, a small experiment to be conducted, but you only use $1 to get a research. Say check out a library book or anything, which is basically free. And then there's the negative effects of technical sources, which is the human bias and the cognitive bias, which is your human bias is subjective social reality, which is giving yourself the inaccurate judgment. You're twisting the story content. You're leaning towards one side. But then in cognitive bias is anything you're relying on your intuition rather than logic, which is believing in your own perspective. You're not seeing any other the macro of what happened. You're just seeing what your own, which is called the micro. And then the confirmation bias is having your own thoughts and your decision to support your own personal judgment. And this is important with social. So one important factor of both sides is social media, which is saying that in this graph right here, it shows that people are increasing, the social media is increasing as people, as time goes on. And I can see here, as time goes on, there's a 15% increase for Twitter from 2013 to 2017, which is showing how the increase in social media. Social media can both be positive and negative, but increasing in technology is both sides. It can be shown as a benefit and a negative, but it's just saying that the negative is fake news, which is everywhere. Fake news and checking the reliability, which is also what you have to do as a technical, but a benefit is saying that it's easy to access, and then you can put out information quickly into society. And then there's certain limitations, which is saying that all the evidence is facts. Like whatever happened. Depending on how you twist out the words, everyone will know the truth eventually. Even if there is bias, the information cannot be made up. And the truth is the truth. Whatever happens is just going to happen, and that's going to be the truth of what is going on. In conclusion, I would like to conclude that even though there are different perspectives, or there's two different sides of technical and there's eyewitness, the main idea is saying that through these different ideas that everyone will have different perspectives depending on their own personality. Thank you.
All right. Give me 1 second to give you these questions.
Oh yeah, for defense.
Yes. All right. So, what information did you need before you began your research, and how did that information shape your research?
Prior to my research, I had my thesis ready, but I didn't know quite what subtopics I needed. So the subtopics, I did some research, and prior to my research, I had to search up what made our different perspectives. And when I found out there was technical and eyewitness, I found the research and found it was very easy to distinguish why we had different perspectives due to those two sources.
Okay. Explain your level of certainty about your conclusion, solution, or recommendation.
I'm certain that my conclusion is correct because if you can see through the technical and eyewitness, there's even the way you receive the information, you're having a different perspective. For eyewitness, it's saying that, you're having your emotions, but as a secondary source, you can be having the possibility of twisting up the words, which would lead you to have a different bias.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.